So my name is Manoj Nimbalkar and I will be moderator for this session. So let's start. Let me introduce you to Christian Margolus. Christian is from Munich. He studied industrial design in Austria, China, and Munich. He initiated several startup projects, always looking for a purpose in his life. And today he will be sharing his key takeaway on why and why not to start a company. Importantly, his learning on finding his purpose. Welcome, Christian.
Hello, Manoj. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. So let me ask you the question. I would be interested in better understanding how you started and what your first learning with starting company were.
One of my first projects was during university. So basically it was two projects I started back then, which was a brand identity consultancy and a job recommendation platform for students. I can show you, this is what the logos of the companies looked like, as it usually was the first thing we did. And what my takeaway there was, or what we did was on the one hand, on the left side is the brand identity consultancy. We help people to ask themselves the questions: why are you doing this? Why are you better at it than other ones? And what is your reason to exist? And on the job platform, we were basically asking ourselves, how can we match people with jobs that fulfill them, especially for students who have little experience in the field. So what was special about these two projects is I started them without having in mind to build a business, actually. So what I was doing is I just had the opportunity to do a project, dive into a topic, got together with a bunch of people, and we were brainstorming and thinking about topics that were relevant to us. And we had a lot of fun doing stuff. We were doing workshops, we were interviewing people, prototyping around. And at a certain point, I realized this was something where I was trying to answer these two core questions I had for myself, which were, hey, what is my reason to be here, and what's unique about what I can and what I'm doing, and what should I do? And on the other hand, what shall I do after finishing university? So this was towards end of university. And the brand identity project we were doing for 1.5 years, the job platform for a little bit more than half a year. And to give you a perspective, why I wouldn't call it something as a business is, with the job platform we earn €0, and with the brand identity thing we earned, I think around €1,000 in 1.5 years. So I would rather call these passion projects that really helped me to get into a topic and answer questions that were relevant for me at that time. And my takeaway from it was, I had the opportunity and I just started something where I enjoyed the topic, and I took something away from myself. So for me, this was a huge learning towards things that mattered to me and that were important for me. Content-wise, I learned a lot about myself, and also building companies, it's just a skill you can learn and you need to practice. And the more you do it, the better you get at it.
Very interesting. So what was your next step then?
So after this was 2012, the end of my studies. I left university and just continued building stuff, and I didn't really know what to do. So I met two IT guys, and they were building IT products, and and I had absolutely no idea about IT products at all. And they were building, or they wanted to build the products within the healthcare industry. And I had even less of an idea of the healthcare industry, what customers would be facing, and how the market works, who is there, what to do, how to approach stuff. And we were working on 3 projects there. And the first project, so I had no idea about this IT product, I had no idea about the market, and I figured for myself, honestly, that I think I liked the lifestyle of the founder, and I did it because I enjoyed going to startup events 4 to 5 times a week, pitching ideas, and I was within this startup bubble where everyone had great ideas and felt amazingly great about themselves. And I walked late into office, went to a lot of networking, socializing events, and really didn't care too much about the content or what I was building. This even got stronger. So this was the first project where I was going for this lifestyle. And being in this bubble, so I had, on the one hand, I was very afraid because I had taken a path very differently than my friends did. So all of them had jobs at big name companies, and they were earning a lot of money, and I was fooling around, walking from meetup to meetup. And being in the startup bubble, so on the one hand, I was very afraid of losing an opportunity and losing my face in front of my peers. And on the other hand, I somehow had the notion and the belief that was in this field that I had to build the next big thing. So build the next, back then it still was Facebook, build the next Facebook, get rich very, very quickly, sell the company to somebody, become an investor yourself, and then after all this, take the time with all the money to figure out what I actually want to do. So, and what we did there, we did our business plans, we had our options, and on paper, we were basically already millionaires, all of us. So we were 3 people in the team, and it was a typical phenomenon of we were spreadsheet millionaires without having any customers, any investors, any type of working product. But we were so much into this bubble and so much thinking, this is something we need to achieve, and this is something worthwhile achieving. Yeah, that I just was in there. And then reality hit. Everything took longer than we thought it would take. We were working, I think, already 1.5 years on these topics without getting any substantial traction. And this was a very low point for me, because I realized, shit, what I'm doing here, and am I losing my track somehow, and losing all the opportunities I could have had after university, taking a different path. And we got together in a team, and we honestly discussed about, hey guys, why are we doing this? And we came up with a very compelling vision that somehow spoke to us, where we said our goal was to prevent all disease that are preventable by helping people to get to know their health. And I felt good about it and did a lot. We went to a lot of fairs, presented, continued building the product. And at a certain point, I came to realize, and let's say I somehow always had a very strange feeling about this vision and about the problem I was trying to solve. And at a certain point, I realized I wasn't being honest to myself, because it was a compelling vision. It was a very, I'd say, honorable problem, a desirable problem also to speak about with other people. But healthcare still wasn't my topic. I never had to do with healthcare before. Health per se wasn't my topic. Sicknesses per se weren't my topic. And I had to be honest to myself. And when I was running out of money, going bankrupt, I just had to be honest to myself and say, this is not what I want to go for. And this is not what I will be able to persist through. So my takeaway there was, hey, don't do it for the fame nor the money, because the probability that you starting a company and getting rich is very, 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 very low. And fame is just a shitty thing to go for, at least for me. And it was, yeah, this was the situation there.
So much learning, Christian. Wow. So could you please share what have you done with those learning?
Yes. Basically, I think I didn't learn too much, because after that I joined a VC-backed startup, so an opportunity came up, and I somehow still had within my system and within my beliefs so much the idea of, hey, I somehow need to have a career that is like socially acceptable, or I need to get rich through the startup stuff. And my way there was to join a VC-backed startup in a leading position. I was offered shares to join the company. Again, the company was in a field I had no real connection to. The topic wasn't really my something I was, let's say, getting an itchy feeling about. And again, after a certain time there, I realized two things, I think, on the way there. That I think for an investor meeting, I had to put down a CV. And putting down the CV, I realized, shit, this is a crappy CV. So in terms of getting a job at a big corporation and go for a classic career, as I learned in school, as my parents told me, I'm screwed. I won't get that. Every HR person will say, you're changing what you're doing every other year. We can't. We don't have any position for you. And the second thing is, I look back the last 5 years of being in the startup field and starting projects, and realized that I was basically living on roughly 1,500 euro a month, and wasn't missing anything. I had everything. I had friends. I had very cool connections. I got to know a lot of people who were doing very interesting stuff. I was learning a ton of things, and this helped me very much to get away from this idea. I have to get rich, and somehow then figure out what to do with the money. So these were two key turning points, and that's the reason why I quit the job there again, realizing if I would have been honest to myself from the beginning, I maybe wouldn't have joined or taken that path. And in, I don't know, some kind of a belief that I could find purpose or idea what I wanted to do next, I just left the country and traveled to the other end of the world.
Wow, so that's interesting. And how did it turn out like that?
You mean the traveling or going to the other? Yeah. And well, I I'd say I brought a picture. This is the beach of a very, very remote island in Thailand. It's called Coachella, and you only can reach it by taking two boats. So you get on a big ferry, and then smaller boats come, and you jump on the smaller boats and then get to the island. And to be honest, my key learning was that you don't find out what you want to do and what is important to you being on the other end of the world. Because I had my network here, I had done everything here, and this was not helping at all. It was a great experience, but the answers are not somewhere else. You can't escape and think of getting the answers. So what I did is I came back and I had this idea of I have to create impact somehow, because purpose and passion for me were two things connected, and somehow I had the idea of it has to be something with impact, having no idea what impact means for me. And I just read some articles, and I always connected the field of impact with social businesses and the social area. So what I did is I got into the field of social businesses, having no idea about it. I joined different organizations. I looked at, I think, 6 different corporations and NGOs at that time, helped out, spoke to the people, wanted to understand the reasons why they joined, what they are doing there, why they are doing things. And on the other hand, I had to simply earn money. As I told you, I never earned a lot, and then traveling for half a year, I was running out of money. So what I did is I went back to my network of all the stations I had gone through, and started working as an innovation consultant. And this wasn't planned. I just asked people, and they say, "Hey, can you help me out here?" And then I called it innovation consultancy. And at the same time, I asked people via social media and networks who had jobs I thought of might be interesting, and just contacted random people and asked them, "Hey, I just saw that you are in the field of innovation. Could you just give me an insight of how did you end up there? What drove you there? What are your learnings? How are you feeling about it?" And this I did, I think, with around 50 people. And during the innovation consultancy time, I was able to work with 4 different corporations. So I also saw big corporations from inside. And within only 6 months, I got so many insights in different fields and different areas that I was able to better understand what I was good at and what was important to me. So I asked myself, what do I do naturally? What am I always doing without actually thinking about it? And for me, this was listening to people and to their problems and coming up with solutions and giving them advice, basically. So I think this was already well reflected in the consulting area. And on the other hand, something towards teaching. And another thing what I constantly do is ask ask if the current status of something is the right thing to do. So I constantly question the status quo. And this was something in innovation. So something I figured I was already doing in basically all the projects I had started. And this was an eye-opener for me to realize that within only half a year, you could make so many different experiences and gather so many different insights, and people were so willing to help me to really narrow down and sharpening my understanding of what I wanted to do. So basically was try out, ask, try, ask, try, ask, try. And so my key takeaway there is try out and see as much as you can. And there is no, at least for me, there is no problem in figuring out, hey, this is not something for me, or this works very well for me, and finding your path iteratively there. Yes.
Wow. So it seems, at least if I may say that, you went on a self rediscovery or discovery, right? And then you whatever you discovered, you try to implement that. So to sum it up, if I may ask you, if you would like to sum it up, and what would be your number one key takeaway regarding the question, should I start a company or not?
Mm-hmm. So to be honest, I think it's the wrong question. Should I start a company or not? Honestly, I think it's more, you should ask yourself, why do I want to start a company? And you need to have a very, very, or it's favorable to have a very clear answer to this why in the part of the question. And for me, what worked well is to have a topic and a problem that really, really, really bugs me, and that I really want to see solved in the world. And to have this as a key driver, because I deeply believe that for one big problem, there are thousands of different solutions you can build, and you can build them as an employee in a company. You can do this at an NGO, you can do this in your free time, or you can do this by starting your own company. But having this strong why and this thing you want to solve, and maybe this desired state you want to create or you want to see in the world, helps you to persist through failing, trying out a lot of solutions that don't work, and staying motivated and encouraged and feeling fulfilled. So this would be my number one key takeaway. Find the topic, the problem you want to see solved in the world for you, that drives you and helps you to get there. And this, I have it here, but I think this is very hard, and I read a lot of books about it, and there is this, I mean, it's the whole market of self-help literature, and I don't know. And what helped me really in this journey were always three questions I asked myself regularly. And if we have time, I would like to go through these three questions with participants now. As a disclaimer, they work for me. I don't know if they work for anyone else, but it's a 10-minute time invest to try it out. And if we can, Manoj, I would just go through the questions.
Yes, so just to sum it up, this question, so I feel that one has to have a vision and the purpose, isn't it?
Yes, definitely. Mm-hmm. And I think purpose is a very, very, very vague term that if you look it up, sometimes it gets very spiritual and religious, and that's why I have these three questions that at least help me. So what we need here, it's just pen and paper, and I will go through the questions, and you will have 1.5 minutes time per question, and just write down anything that comes to your mind in this association. Anything, don't think too much about it, just write anything down. Are you ready?
Yes, perfect. I have my pen and paper with me.
Perfect. Okay, let's start. The first question is, what is the topic that really, really bugs me? And by this I mean, so this is something, when I talk about it, or if somebody else talks about it, I get really angry about it. if I see this or if this is something. So feel inwards and really, really, really try to figure out if you feel something thinking about this topic. And is it something recurring and coming over and over? Okay, perfect. How did this work for you, Manoj?
Amazing. I just wrote down at least 5 to 6 points down here.
Nice, cool, very nice. Okay, are you ready for the second question?
Yes.
Okay, so the second question is, what would the world look like if this bugging topic is solved? And it doesn't mean that it has to be solved by you, but what would the world look like? And be as descriptive as possible. So create a very, very tangible picture for you in your mind. And again, feel for, is this picture giving you goosebumps? Is this something where you say, wow, this sounds crazy, but I want to get up and say, let's do this, let's start this. Okay. How did it go for you, Manoj?
It went very good. I feel like, yes, now I know what I had to do. And thank you for that. Yeah.
Let's see if it's really that easy. Okay, and the third question is, so this is basically, what does interest you? What is your vision, and when? What do you want the world to be like? And the third question is, what is in you, and what should you do about it? So it's very basic, but I think the hardest question, what do I constantly do almost naturally that makes me feel great? And why this is so hard is because this is what you do automatically. And just give it a try. Again, 1.5 minutes. Let's go.
Christian, it's amazing. But well, for the last question, at least for me, it's like learn, try, and again learn.
Okay, cool.
Collaborate. That's what I come up with at the moment. Yeah.
So, thank you very much. Thanks for sharing. And so what I do, I go through these questions regularly. Usually when I feel bad or I feel lost, I maybe ask the questions myself once every week. When I feel good about it, it might be once a month, once half a year only. But at least it helps me to reflect on what is my current path, and am I going into the right direction, or do I need to take some kind of correction there? Great. That's it from my side.
So thank you very much, Christian. Now I would like to open this session for questions. You can ask question via chat, or just write your name in the chat and I will pick you up to ask question or give your comment yourself. Or you can also turn on audio and also ask the question directly.
I would have a question. So Christian, are you working at the moment at a new founding project? When yes, so which learnings from the past are you applying there, or when not, why not?
I'm currently not in a founding project because I really, so what I said is I realized for myself starting a company is not the goal, but it's only a means to something. And usually starting a company it's a very, very hard thing to do. So your market is unknown. You usually lack a lot of skills you might need. Maybe you don't have a team. If you have a team, you usually don't know your team, your co-founders very well. You have to get to know them. And so you have to do everything from start. So my my work to my mode to see this now is to actually rather think of something I want to solve and then think of options and ways to solve this. So for example, for me, this is, I see that many people follow very, very classic career paths, not asking themselves what are their own goals and what do they want to do, maybe because they lack the courage. And on the other hand, I see that we have so many huge problems affecting all of us. And the part I can contribute is the knowledge in not being too afraid of starting something and using innovation as a means to address those big problems. And that's for me the reason why I went into teaching and helping young people and corporates to tackle those big problems and maybe through that see for themselves a way to find their path. And instead of starting this new, I went into an existing company and ecosystem where I said, I don't have to like tackle everything from accounting, finance, and stuff that takes up a lot of my time and resources, but doesn't contribute to the problem I want to solve. So this is how I address this now, that I say, if I have this problem, I try to find the right way to solve this and to put as much of my energy I have into it.
Cool. Yeah, thank you very much for this long answer. And I think you found a really good point there. Also, I did it without knowing it to do it like this. So I also am at the moment I'm working for this hackathon project from Via versus Virus, and there we want to build up a system where elderly people can easily do video calls with their relatives. And yeah, there were many projects who say, yeah, we want to build their own hardware and all that stuff. And I thought, no, it doesn't make sense in my sense because these are too many things. I can't control them and I'm not good in this. And now I'm trying to collaborating with Amazon because they already have a device and to bring the solution, which I really want because I see the big impact and value I can bring with a good partner on the market. And that's I think a good way. Yeah, cool. Thanks.
Very cool. Very cool. And I mean, this is the example, I think, or a very good example for what is the biggest leverage for you to try to solve this problem and bring your desired outcome into the world. And for you, it's maybe finding a partner and partnering up with them.
Yeah.
Yes. Cool. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, no worries.
Are there any more questions, comments?
I got a question.
Yes.
If I may. And because I was thinking a lot about what purpose does mean. Did you define it for yourself? And do you have a definition of that? And would you share it?
Thanks for the question. It's I can't answer it with one. So no, I don't have a very clear definition for me. I rather have definitions that exclude ways of seeing purpose for myself. So first of all, I don't believe in this. There is your one purpose in life, and you're meant to be something. And if you find it, you're meant to do it forever. I think this purpose and this idea of what you want to tackle and what you want to solve and what you want to see changed in the world should be flexible and should change over time. The more you learn about something, the more you learn about what interests you, what drives you. So as I said, the example, healthcare, I had no idea. I went into it and I figured out, no, this is not what drives me. I didn't know this in advance. And so I'm not a fan of this fixed definition that that somehow someday standing under a shower you will be enlightened and know what is the one thing I have to do with my life. I think this is hard work and a lot of trying out and trying to see a lot of stuff. And I also think if you look at the different, so we're mainly focusing here on work-related purpose. So what do I do with work? but we as humans, we're not only work. I think I had the problems at times that I thought my life is all about, so I need this one purpose and I need to follow this one purpose, and then I have to put everything into it. And in the startup phase, it was already taking up a huge amount of my time. And when I wasn't working on the project, I was thinking about it. And I spent all my time there, and I lost sight of the other different things in life that are important and that might only give me pleasure. I don't know, for me, it's drawing, spending time with my friends, spending time with my partner. And I think these are times, things and areas you need to balance somehow. So it's two things: having a purpose maybe in one area, or having purpose in many areas, and not seeing purpose as something fixed. Thank you very much for the question, Lisa.
Thank you.
Do you have a definition, or how do you see it?
I'm not clear about that, because I have read a lot about that, and I also think this point, often purpose is related to work and what you do, but I think it's more about what your authentic self maybe, and that's why I like the questions, what makes you feel great, because I think if you're in a status of feeling great in what you're doing, and feeling good in this moment, then it's one way of being authentic, and that's maybe one way where you can bring all your areas in life together. But yeah, I'm still thinking about that, and I think it's very interesting just to think about those kinds of definitions.
Cool. Thank you very much for sharing.
Yes. Maybe another question. Your first project, why did you call it Törtchen?
It wasn't my first project. The first project had an even shittier name, but we called it Törtchen because in the team we came together and we needed a name for the project because we were applying for a grant. And this was the time where cupcakes had a big uptime, and we were sitting in a cafe and they had cupcakes, and we said, let's just call it Törtchen, because in branding, actually, many people we spoke to thought a name would be the most important thing. You have a name and a brand mark, so logo, and we said, okay, we will make a statement and say, no, it's not about this. It's about what your identity is and how you live it, and you can call most of the things anything, as long as you fill it with something that is what you want to be it. And so I think this is the story that we tell, that there was this great plan, and to show our customers back then that you don't really need a very special name. But to be honest, we were just sitting in this cafe brainstorming, and the first thing we came to was this cupcakes being on our table. But it worked. It worked. To this day, people remember the name.
Yeah, that's very good. What I think is interesting, also in case of Törtchen, sorry if I'm still asking questions, but I hope it is okay. In case of Törtchen, because in that project you already had a lot of these questions, why do we exist, and this brand identity, and then in your story you came up into this founder ecosystem and kind of maybe lost these thoughts that were already there back then. But what do you think, which impact does the actual founder system and ecosystem does have on people who want to start a company?
It's hard to say. I can just tell you what it's the impact it had on me. So basically, I think, yes, you're right. I was already dealing with those questions that might have been important for me, or that I ended up with, or looking backwards, connecting the dots. It makes complete sense, and it's a very, very, very nice narrative. Back then, I didn't know for me, and I was simply a student without a lot of experience, without having seen a lot of different things, I think I just was lacking orientation, and I was lacking different expertise in different fields to, for me, myself, create. So first of all, have the courage to say, okay, this is my opinion and these are my goals. And I just ended up in this founder and startup ecosystem, and somehow oriented myself on the goals that were present there. And when we look at what is desirable or what the success stories are, it's always the next unicorn, become Elon Musk. Back then it was be Steve Jobs, build the next big company. And this is the success stories that get told, and that turn out for many people to be the goals that they take for themselves. And this was the case for me, because I didn't have any experience on formulating my own goals there.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question? Okay.
Of course.
Hi everyone. I'm Akin. Thanks, Christian, for your insights, and it's really lovely listening to you. But at the moment, I'm at the crossroad of some challenges, and I'm really glad about those 3 questions you asked. Like the first one that you mentioned, what topic really bothers you? And considering for someone like me, who is from sub-Saharan Africa, there is the issue of poverty that is really mind-boggling. And it's something that keeps you awake all night. Even if someone like us, you have the privilege, you still have colleagues, friends, old friends who are still struggling. Now I'm trying to build a startup on something that could be more of a social and environmental impact startup. But the crossroad I'm at now is each time you try to discuss this with people or a mentor or something, they usually don't first see the bottom line of trying to make a social impact. It's about how do you make money? You know, what is the economic benefit eventually for the startup? And the main motivation here is, for me, is about making impact. When you see a lot of people, their life change, then there is this collective economic benefit. So that is it. So how do you try to maintain that balance? Because trust me, at one point you need to start discussing with investors. They are really more interested in the economic benefits rather than the environmental or the social impact. You know? So what do you say, maybe from experience, or you've dealt with people who are trying to build something like this? For your information, I'm trying to do a kind of crowd lending platform to build renewable energy mini-grid projects for electricity in Africa. Because that part is really devoid of electricity and is really affecting economic activities. I still talk to some of my friends back home during this lockdown. No educational activities can go through because here we have electricity, we are all connected. So nothing is going on. So you can imagine how that affects the economy generally. So that is the issue I'm trying to address. And, you know, so maybe you can share your thoughts about this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Akim. I hope I did understand everything right. So you're in sub-Saharan Africa and you're trying to solve the issue of poverty and addressing the lack of energy there. And you're asking yourself, if I'm doing something that has social impact, hard for me to find investors that are after scaling something and doing it for the money. And I think this is a very good question, because I can just share. So when I was looking into the social enterprises, I figured that a lot of people there had a very strong reason why they were doing what they were doing. But they didn't want to accept this fact that to scale something or to make something big, you somehow had to build a business
around it.
They were somehow restricting themselves, because they said, I don't want to have to do anything with big corporations, venture capital. I don't know. And I understand them, and I think for you, if you start this, it's very, 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 very important to keep this reason and to have this reason in mind. Starting this. And if you look at the landscape of VCs, for example, there are many, many venture capital funds or funds that go into this impact direction. So they force you to create a company that reinvests their main part and main gains into the cause you're doing it for. So in the last couple of years, there has been a very interesting change where you can really start something like this without depending on, let's say, funds from somebody or grants from somebody, but really build a scalable business with this cause. And just to give you an example, a friend of mine in Berlin works at a company, and they build very low energy devices for the African market. So these are very, very affordable solar panels and batteries, lights, low energy TVs, and they sell these products through vendors to the most remote regions in Africa, and helped regions that didn't have any electricity, any means to get in contact or to get information, to get entertainment, to get all this. And they're not a social business. They're just a regular business here in the German market, providing this solution.
Can you share the name of the company, please? That is a prospective partner. Thank you.
Maybe you can contact me later on LinkedIn. I think Manuch we can go on with the discussion, and I can connect you with Stefan.
All right, that would be lovely. Yeah, thank you, Christian. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah.
Christian, so all of you, we have some short time for one question more, and then we will wrap this session up. So if there is, so I have one question, Christian, a short one. Will you start a company again?
It's a good question. I don't know. I honestly don't know. So right now I'm feeling very well with what I'm doing. I feel aligned. I feel fulfilled with what I'm doing. And if at a certain point in time this is not given anymore, if somehow I answer these questions differently to myself, maybe I will do something else. And maybe start a company again. Yes.
So thank you very much, Christian, and all of you joining this session. So from my point of view, to wrap this up, there are two key takeaways. one should be very, very honest, or if I may use very strong word, brutally honest with yourself. And second one is try to understand the problem you are desperately want to solve in the world. I hope, Christian, this is what exactly you also want to give the takeaway.
Spot on.
Thank you very, very much. So I'm sharing, of course, this session is going to end. However, you can still interact with Christian and of course with me on LinkedIn group. I'm putting here on the chat. And I would like to also put your attention to our next session of the Be True conference on a little bit on mindful connection. So that link, I'm going to put it here just in a second. So do join us, and I would like to thank all of you very much. Thank you again, Christian, for your wonderful talk and sharing all the insight you have.
Thank you, Manoj, for the moderation. Thank you very much. And thanks everyone for listening and asking questions.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.